Season 1, Jeff, BaRRaCCuDDa, and the North American Sweethearts bring it home under the banner of Cognitive Pride.
No one thought had a chance at the finals coming into this event. Coming as the number 2 I'm down, ripping through, Titan, down, falls 3, a double kill for himself, it's a 5-man run, they're gonna go for the win,
the world champions, Cognitive Pride, GG!
Season 2, we say hello to Europe as Adapting in Epsilon Esports slam it home.
A huge play, Adapting's about to go up, he's gonna come crashing down, who's the target? It's gonna be all 3, and 2 will get stunned out.
Oh no.
He's taking tons of damage.
Oh no.
Chaos forced to move forward.
They don't have enough time for this. They don't have enough time for this.
No, it's a deicide. Ladies and gentlemen, Epsilon Esports.
Season 3, new name, same roster. 2-time world champions, Rapper and NRG.
Well, there's 4 members left, and into the sky goes Adapting. The ultimate's way down. The Titan is under siege. Energy are looking to be world champions again. Long live the king! And once again, the king is Europe.
Season 4, PolarBearMike brings it back for America. eUnited slams the hammer.
Cracking and knocked back. There's Jeff Walker controlling things. PandaCat takes that Wolfie. Where's the remainder of the team fight?
That's one. To Venenu, and eUnited keeps on going because PandaCat
got 2. Still pushing forward. They're at the Titan. Only 2 members to play defense.
They can't do it.
And that's the game. That's the series. That is your Smite World Championship. Say hello to your North American victors, PolarBearMike and eUnited.
Season 5, new map, new players, new teams, same destination. Who raises Thor's hammer? The Smite Pro League.
Welcome in, everybody. It's day 1 of North America here in the fall split of Season 5. Aggro joined by Anatoly. And Toly, we've got an incredible day of SPL action. Our first match is going to be the defending world champions eUnited, but the guy who was kind of featured there, standing up and yelling when they won the world championship, Venenu, is now on the other side, now with Spacestation Gaming.
The swap has happened. Baskin now joining the likes of eUnited. On the dark side, as some would say, there's going to be that battle of light versus dark. Yesterday was Europe. A lot of spicy things happened there between Energy and Rival, experimenting between Baron running support. Who knows what's happening today in North America?
I know they're going to be fun games to watch. That's about all I know. I also know that you can go to hi-rez.expo.com to get your tickets if you want to come to HRX at DreamHack Atlanta this year. If you want to be a part, if you want to be in the crowd there from that little video that you just saw, trust me, you do. November 16th through the 18th. Again, hi-rez.expo.com. Get your tickets now. You can also head to the after party. We don't have a cool little video for that because we don't want cool little videos for that. What happens at the after party is fun, and you can talk about it later because there's no sort of weird legal thing that you have to do for it. Make sure you hit up the website there as well to get to the after party. Toly, I'm sure you are a big proponent of going to that
I thought you were going to go with what happens after the after party stays at the after party, like we're in Las Vegas or something. You didn't know. But no, yeah, absolutely. I'll be there. I know you'll be there. Everyone's going to be there. Come hang out.
That's the best spot to get to hang out a little bit with some of your favorite players and hi-rez personalities. Everyone shows up, and it's a great time, so make sure you get your tickets to that as well. Let's take a look at the schedule and see what we've got going on for this first week of SPL action. As you mentioned, yesterday was the first day of Europe. Today, we've got the lead-off day of North America. As I mentioned, eUnited versus Spacestation at the top, then Trifecta versus CLG, and finally Splice versus Luminosity. So this is a whole day full of really competitive games. Splice had a really, really good run during the summer split, but they also have a change in the mid lane now, taking out Best, putting in Moswall. Luminosity has a change in the mid lane. Keeg's no longer there. Instead, they have Shadow Chair. So I'm particularly interested in that third matchup to see if Splice is looking better or if they still need to mesh a bit.
North America is definitely more difficult to predict the results and the outcome than Europe. Outside of Energy losing O2 to Rival, level. I think the rest of the 2 sets were pretty much standard. Dignitas beating Mouse,
Sure.
Obey beating out SK Gaming, but who knows? Between eUnited versus Spacestation Gaming, these teams are your number 1 and 2 that happened in the spring and the summer that went into that Smite Masters land. But I think that some of these other 4 teams have the potential to start rising in the ranks.
Well, let's see which team has been able to adjust more quickly to their new mid laner. I don't think this is indicative of which is the better team come Worlds time, but more about how well do you mesh with your new teammate very, very quickly. We'll start with what eUnited is going to do with Baskin now in that mid lane for them. Obviously, it's an exciting move. Even though Ven is the defending World's MVP, Baskin kind of heralded as NA's best player, but he does bring a very unique playstyle and one that usually involves taking farm from a lot of people to do the things that he wants to do. Do you think that Baskin's playstyle will change or eUnited's will?
I think more of eUnited's is going to stay the same, actually, because Scream doesn't always heavily prioritize ganking the mid lane anyway. He likes to go for a lot of these side lane ganks anytime, but Venenu, I think, will make more of an impact in Spacestation Gaming as an overall benefit, because andinster needs to be catered to a little bit. And the fact that Baskin was stripping away a lot of that farming from andinster, I think just hurt his presence and hurt his potential to look for those highlight plays. So I'm more confident that Spacestation Gaming is going to be just an altered, beneficial team as opposed to eUnited.
Yeah, I think eUnited obviously has a phenomenal ceiling now with Baskin. Not that they didn't before with Venenu, but we kind of already we've already seen their peak performance, which was their World Championship run during last year's HRX, where they obviously looked dominant throughout the entirety of it. Whereas for Spacestation, I wonder, with this new addition of Venenu, what their ceiling is going to look like overall. I think it's also incredibly high. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that the current Spacestation roster, even losing Baskin, is capable of winning a world championship.
I think just looking at statistically, it's so even between the 2 players. It's more about what it does to the team chemistry-wise. When BaRRaCCuDDa made that video, you could just tell the chemistry is going to be better at the end of the day. Baskin didn't want to be on the team, and I don't think anyone else wanted Baskin to be on the team if the chemistry wasn't going to work out. And I think if this is the kind of trade that needs to happen for either of these teams to start beating out Europe, that's going to be necessary.
Well, no more delays. Let's get into it. Picks and bans ready for eUnited versus Spacestation Gaming. eUnited in that first pick position. And as I mentioned, I think it's more about seeing how well you can adjust quickly to your team. Normally, these 2 teams will have one really close game, and then one team will win. Then the other team will blow that team out and force a game 3, and then the team that won game 1 will blow out the other one again and to win the set. It's always been close, but with some blowouts in there. Do you expect the same here, or do you think it's going to be 2 quick games? What are you expecting?
I'm expecting it to be relatively competitive games. I think we're going to see probably 30 to 35 minute average games. With some of the changes to some of the items, we could potentially see it more conclusive at the end of the day. A lot of these items got buffed by 100 gold, so cheaper to purchase. And with the second pick going to Spacestation Gaming, they did not want to give that Frey away.
No, nor the Chernobog, which can be played in the mid lane as well for Baskin. That does leave open Naja, and that's exactly where Scream is going to go. Interesting that eUnited, with their first ban against Venenu, target ban him out by banning the Morrigan. Another god that received a buff that we haven't really talked about quite as much. Dark Omen now clears the wave much more easily, so it's something to watch out for. I think we'll be seeing many more Morrigan plays throughout this fall split as the focus for Venenu right away on Spacestation. They pick up Discordia right off the bat.
I'm not too worried about this Discordia pick because I know that Venenu can play anything that he really wants to, but leaving a lot left open for Baskin. I know that he would probably prefer the Thoth, but Baron Samedi's locked in. Probably going to be the solo lane. It's more beneficial to have him there with the blue buff, get the extra cooldown, and just the MP5.
Yeah, interesting that Spacestation, as you mentioned, Ven can kind of play the whole cast. Why pick his Discordia this early on? Is Discordia that good?
I think it's more about abusing the passive. Get aggressive side laners, look for some bully potential, maybe try to dominate the dual lane, and then just allow BaRRaCCuDDa a little bit of a leg up over PandaCat.
It's also not only getting your team the passive, but Naja is one of the easiest gods at gaining that Discordia passive, and then his already phenomenal early game becomes that much harder to match, so not a bad idea there to take it away from this Naja for Scream. On her as well as this Baron. Baron kind of expected, as you mentioned, could be in solo, could be in support, but this on her feels a little bit early. Do you think that this is the start of a new sort of pick order on her did get some changes.
I don't think it's going to be just an overall staple for the whole scene to pick the on her, but it's more of a PandaCat special. The aggressive style in his nature, he loves to look for those highlight plays, and if Baskin is playing in this team, who knows? Maybe that's going to be on her mid for all we know.
Well, and Spacestation doesn't seem convinced that it isn't on her mid, that they ban away Ullr and Artemis, or that either of those two gods could have gone in the mid lane, whereas the jungle is where eUnited try and ban away, but that's where Spacestation goes right after the second ban phase. BaRRaCCuDDa pretty early on in this spot, or early on, I guess, in the grand scheme of the fall split. But I think BaRRaCCuDDa's a god we're probably going to see more of.
It's not definitely a andinster preferred god, more of a Scream god, if anything. But
Sure.
I like to see this flexibility coming from Spacestation's jungler, trying to, cripple people down, limit some of their movement speed, maybe find the burst damage potential, or just for that CC immunity, negating Naja's Windfire Wheel. So there's going to be a lot of mind games between these two junglers.
Spacestation knew something was going on, then they banned away some hunters, but eUnited still go for the double hunter composition. They select Kuzenbo, and I imagine that's now Baron support, Kuzenbo solo. I don't think it'll be Kuzenbo support, though it is possible, as Wukong the final selection here for Spacestation. So Spacestation with the Ram, Baka, Wukong final 3 selections. 3 gods that are good and see some play, but maybe not as much as you would expect for these first 3 picks.
More single target focus from eUnited as opposed to AoE, crowd
Sure.
control, or damage as an overall unit. And I think Spacestation Gaming, once they start grouping up, they can definitely use that Cerberus Discordia in conjunction to start dominating.
Well, let's see who's going to win. In fact, we're going to ask you guys at home who's going to win this match. Do you think Baskin gets off to a great start with eUnited, or do you think Ven gets some revenge for Spacestation Gaming? This one's going to be interesting to watch, because as BaRRaCCuDDa, are you looking to target out Baron? That's probably going to be in the dual lane. You can't really gank Kuzenbo because that true damage is so strong up against the spiked shells. I don't know. Well, we're going to have to wait and see. You think Neath is where you're going to go?
Yeah, if I'm BaRRaCCuDDa, I'm focusing at the Neath.
Fair enough. We'll see what andinster decides to do. Let's throw it over to the casters for Game 1 of the North American SPL.
Thank you, Aggro. Thank you, Toli, Finch, and Hindu as we move into eUnited up against Spacestation, the NA Summerland representatives. We saw this yesterday with Rival and Energy. Well, now it's NA's turn. These top 2 teams, after the roster swap, throwing down.
Now, with this one coming in today, Finch, as well, the main exciting thing about today is going to be exactly how the playstyles work. And I kind of expected with this roster change, eUnited would be a very aggressive, probably the most aggressive team in North America coming into this split now. And Spacestation Gaming are going to be looking at more, in my opinion, of a counter-initiation secondary factor. So this is like both teams playing into their own strengths. And with the picks and bans, you can see that in my eyes of, lots of aggression from eUnited the whole game, lots of early game control, and looking to put this to bed early, specifically with Screammmmm and Baskin in that mid and jungle position.
And that's what it feels like to me, where they really, in particular, want to try and bully Venenu on this Discordia pick in the middle lane here, right? As this purple buff appears to be getting stripped away by eUnited on their side. And already, Spacestation Gaming are moving towards their red buff, kind of giving up this early pressure.
But notice what eUnited did there. They left the lane a little bit prematurely on purpose to try and make sure they steal away the purple. Don't allow Jeff and BaRRa in the dual lane, which we see a lot in the Pro League of, we can't win the 1v1 trade, we're going to go in the jungle at the start. But they lose even more because they do lose that wave and they don't get all their buffs. They get some stolen.
And we got to remember, these two play each other all the time. Been Scrim partners for a while now as well. And I think we kind of saw that in the picks and bans, right? Even with On Her, they banned away 2 hunters, the Artemis and one other. They definitely recognize that this is what was going to be a possible strat from eUnited. And then we kind of see it from them again, where they move right over to red to avoid the purple buff invade. We're definitely seeing that level of familiarity.
Really interested in the fact that eUnited invested a little bit more in those Baron's brews at the start of the game too, because in EU, when we saw the Baron getting played, some people got it earlier on, but not the whole team. The majority of eUnited this time around, though, have elected to go for it. Now, it's not going to hurt many of the builds looking through it, but it does mean like we see a bit more boots instead.
We are going to need to see those. One place I've been interested in looking at here, Hindu, Aquarius is going with that Warrior Tabi start that we've seen be a little bit more prevalent for our solo laners, forgoing that Warrior's Blessing, getting that extra power online right away to try and be a lane bully.
And you can see he started with the tier 2 boots, did a very quick trip back to base. That's why he's used the teleport you see already in that solo lane, because he wants to get those Warrior Tabi online for the power. Warrior's Blessing took a bit of a hit, and it appears a lot of the solo laners are now like, wait, what? This is terrible. This isn't as good. We're not as OP as we once were. We can die in lane with this. So why buy it? Why not just go for a different option of maybe mobility, as Aquarius has done.
And especially if it gets this early Kuzenbo, I gotta feel like there's a chance for Sun Wukong to establish some early pressure here in this matchup, right? If he can get some lane clear and some poke in at the same time, trying to force Benji to back in opportune times. PandaCat, on the other hand, jumping in aggressively in duo, forcing out the sprint from Space Station.
And you're talking about poking the solo lane. I think Kuzenbo should be fine. It's Kuzenbo after all. Had a couple of changes too, and that's why we're starting to see the rise of the Kuz once more. And that's down to the fact that he's more survivable, but he's going to do a little bit less damage. Haha, I say that. But his cooldowns come up way more often now, so he can spam those abilities. So even though the basic hits may do a little bit less, over the course of a game, he's going to do substantially more because his abilities are always up.
And to be fair, Kuzenbo was never really doing his own damage. He was doing your damage, right, to you. So Kuzenbo should certainly still be able to do that effectively, especially with these Shoes of Focus coming in right away. He, as you said, wants to be able to spam those abilities off.
Now, the one thing as well, though, is there is a Bakasura for andinster and Space Station here. And true damage, you know, it ignores protections a little bit. Doesn't stop the reflect, however. No. So he's going to play around that a little bit if he goes for the Kuzenbo, which won't really be his prime target. I'm looking at the compositions, and really, it's about how well Venenu can do and stay safe in this mid lane on the Discordia. Right. Because if Scream and Baskin can combine with their abilities and look for picks, that's the most obvious choice of a pick potential for eUnited in the early game.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if that's where eUnited's trying to go. And right on the flip side, I got to think andinster's target with this Bakasura is going to be Baskin, like you heard Toli alluding to on the desk earlier on. So, as appropriate as it seems with this roster swap, I really do think it's going to come down to which one of these mid laners, especially through this early game, transitioning into mid, can have the bigger impact, whether that's by staying safe or by being the one that can be the aggressor for their team.
And the one thing that's going to happen throughout the season is the biggest word, is chemistry. Chemistry between the junglers and mid laners for both these teams. They've got to adapt to, you know, is Baskin going to be as aggressive as Scream wants him to be, or is he going to be too aggressive? Is Venenu not going to play as high up as andinster wants him to be? Does he not bait himself the right way? These are the things that these teams have to establish early and quickly, because this is the world split, man.
That's right. Yeah.
They've got to get this ready before the World Championships come around the corner.
And to be fair to eUnited, they made a similar switch last year, and it seemed to work out for them. So maybe they certainly can get that done here. But look, one more thing I'm keeping my eye on. Baskin went ahead and finished off that Transcendence Graham, but Venenu prioritized his boots before getting a stacking item online. I'm thinking that's just for the mobility, right? He wants to be able to move as soon as possible.
It's generally for the mobility here. Obviously, the timing of the base, he probably could have picked up the Book of Thoth instead.
Probably, yeah.
But his mobility is less, and Ring Toss slows you down, sashes can keep you in range. If you can move a little bit quicker, you're not going to be able to get hit as often.
And he doesn't have that big of a leap either here on that Discordia. It can, depending on how short the wall is, get over.
Well, I mean, he might not even need the boots. Look at what Scream just did. Damn, just saying.
if the sashes aren't landed,
like that, we'll be fine.
Aquarius feeling a little bit more comfortable as that was off the mark, but it's been a bit slow to get this one started. And one of the things that I feel like makes Najah so strong is that early on he is able to get so much extra power, right, from his passive, and that we saw get reworked around that mid-season patch, right? So you think that would be an argument going early on as Venenu drops the ultimate here in middle lane, and andinster responds.
And now into the sky goes Andy, as Scream's going to give him a bit of a beatdown. Follow-up is there, as the Baron turns into the party too.
But PolarBearMike comes back in with the life for the party. First blood going the way of eUnited. PolarBearMike might be in a little bit of trouble for the return kill, but he barely squeaks his way out. eUnited coming out on top in that trade.
Absolutely stupid fight though.
Ridiculous.
In the mid lane you saw Scream just off the center of the camera miss his sash, but the panic from Venenu was he felt like he was getting ganked, so he apples in response, thinking he's going to get it all in to try and prevent that potential. But that just ends up setting up, you know, Scream to be in an awkward spot, and he's like, well, hang on, I can clean you up. But then gets hit by the ultimate, and it all turns around with the PolarBearMike rotation.
And that might mean, and this could be totally off the read, but that they might be a bit on edge with this match, right? This match is important, I think. This match is important not just because of the top two teams, but because they just traded and both mid laners want to prove they made the right move.
And that's the fans at home too.
And like, everyone home, yeah.
Everyone's like, who won the trade? And on paper, you talk Baskin, you talk Venenu. Baskin been seen as potentially one of the best players in the world, if not one of the best.
Right.
At times throughout his career. Venenu, he was the MVP at the World Championships when eUnited won. MVP.
Yeah.
Yet they trade. And both teams seem happy with it overall, but no one really knows. And I know for a fact that this mid lane is going to be where most of the action will be.
Yes, it's very appropriate that the drafts and the matchups worked out this way, because really the difference between those mid laners is what's going to be so important here, as already a kill going the way of United. Now, it did go over to PolarBearMike on that Baron Somdi. Maybe not quite as good as if it had been Screammmmm who grabbed it to get things started off right away, but they'll take it.
You clearly don't play support because that's the dream.
If you're a support, I guess, yeah.
Well, also, in case you build boots online a little bit quick, it's going to help you out a lot more. And Baron Somdi is going to be able to bring a lot. I'm actually interested in what PolarBearMike's max, and I believe it's going to be his heal. He should be maxing his heal on the Baron because it's percentage-based, which is what's really important here. So he doesn't necessarily, you know, have to keep swinging, but he's going to do decent damage throughout this as well. Don't necessarily need to go into power. You want to be going for the tanky option. Your job is to kite around the team fights, stay alive as long as possible, consistently annoy and CC, and keep throwing out those heals consistently throughout the engagements.
And he's rotating early and often as well on this Baron too, which I think is what you have to do. You can't. This isn't one of those picks you can sit in lane with. As PandaCat drops Desert Fury, they get the ultimate coming out from Neath as well. BaRRA returns some nice shots on the PandaCat, who can't really avoid them, but it's no lethal range here. They're basically just trading ults.
Notice how PandaCat has used his ult a couple of times now already. Low cooldown on Anher. People have to start realizing that he can pretty much spam that, you know, every other wave, basically. It's about a 75-second cooldown, and it does a hell of a lot of damage. Take into account, it also procs the passive of an Anher too. That's the third in a row, I believe.
Yeah, Sash once again off the mark. That time I think he might have been looking for a too shallow of an angle and kind of clipped that wall. And that's full transcendence, by the way, there for Baskin. Putting the work in onto Venenu, fully stacked already, and he's realizing what that Spirit Arrow can do.
They might even go for a dive here, potentially. I can see Baron just hanging around the corner there for a second, but he did step on a ward. Ven will be forced back to base, and that's why, look at the, they're like sharks in the water, those three then. You saw Venenu was at half health, and they're like, is someone low? Can we get in there and get that kill?
Scream going with a Wing Blade here, second item as well, trying to get a little bit of extra movement speed, obviously, to help him get away from those slows as well. But Graham, this has been prevalent too, right? It's not Najah building like every power item they can grab. It's sort of a more utility build we've seen come to prevalent.
Mobility is definitely important for a jungler as well on the Najah and the likes, but I do like the Wing Blade coming out. If you look at the slows that they're going to have in this game consistently, there's plenty of them that Scream will end up getting hit by. And it's really funny because when his ring toss is up, he can make himself move fast anyway. When his ring toss is down, he gets slowed and he's like, well, I move fast anyway. So it's a win-win scenario. Does lower the amount of damage he's going to do in the early stages, however, but that means he's more of a CC bot to set up maybe for this power spike that Neath has with the full Transcendence.
And it's a ton of control that eUnited has anyway, right? So they can kind of just feed into one another. It feels like once you're in the chain, you're stuck in the chain all the way up until your death. If it's not the Spirit Arrow or the World Weaver or all of Baron CC or even PandaCat with an Impale and Benji's Watery Grave, it is kind of a nightmare once you're trapped. So I feel like Scream can kind of be a little bit more utility-based because they can lock you down so long.
I'm excited to see what ends up happening to develop in this game and who's going to go for a Gold Fury earlier on. I feel like both teams definitely have an interesting Gold Fury fight, in fairness. Maybe a slight edge to eUnited with a double Hunter, you know, at this stage of the game. It will be pretty strong for them. But then again, Spacestation do have a very interesting comp to either, well, kill them after the fact or stop them from doing it and steal it away.
Andinster's had a relatively easy time, I feel like, through this early game as well. He is the only one that took a spill here so far, but it hasn't really put him that far behind. Is it maybe about a half level or so behind Scream, who ticked over to level 10 first? And BaRRaCCuDDa is happy to have that. He can be very strong towards that mid-game area once he gets just a couple items online.
Yeah, the one thing to note as well is the game continues on. I mean, one kill's not that big in the grand scheme of Smite, but a couple in a row can cause a lot of problems, or at least if they lose farm too.
Andinster dropping the ultimate from the pressure here from Benji, perhaps thinking there was a little bit more around than there was. Benji was really alone, so Andinster I don't think really needed to do it, but at least he's out. I don't think, from what he's been doing so far, he's planning on fighting anytime soon anyway.
Here we go. I was just thinking this is going to be the call, because Anher, one of the greatest ones in the early jungle control and Gold Fury, along with a Neath and some extra heals and power from the team.
BaRRaCCuDDa's almost here, but not in time. eUnited grabbed the Gold Fury Graham for free, basically, as no one was around.
No, and it was just the timing window was there, and double Hunters. That's all there was to it. And the next question is, do Spacestation try and answer back at the Pyromancer maybe? Right. Or do they just make sure that the wall coverage gets better?
Because they didn't commit anything, did they? I mean, it was free.
I'm looking at the wall coverage right now, and it's all eUnited on the map. You see a couple of wards in the inventory of Space Station Gaming, but nothing really showing. And that's one of the reasons Andy just used that ultimate a little bit earlier on, by the way, was because he didn't have the vision of where Scream, where PolarBearMike was. Were they up to no good in the jungle nearby? So ult and get away. But as soon as that ult is used, that was the window for eUnited to go aggressive, knowing that BaRRaCCuDDa didn't have that.
Yeah, and if we could pull up those charts, just take a look at the difference between these two teams, because it seems as though it's been relatively even, but Gold Fury now gives eUnited about a 2,500 gold lead, about 1,000 XP difference as well. This has been slow and steady, but the race is going eUnited's way.
But it doesn't really look that when you look at the levels. The only real one you can see is Baskin versus Venenu in the mid lane, with Baskin with a slight lead at the moment. That's definitely down to being Neef in the push power, so you can rotate a little bit quicker.
Oh, yeah.
But also keep being able to poke out Venenu where possible and make him miss a wave or two.
Now, there hasn't been a ton of fights. Initially, I was concerned because Baskin went right into the Transcend, was going to hit that power spike so early on, and Venenu might be a bit behind. But there haven't been that many fights. There haven't been that many instances where Baskin's really, I feel like, used that power spike ahead of Venenu.
But this whole game is about eUnited looks to play aggressive. I'm expecting eUnited will try and start going even more aggressive around 15 to 17 minute mark.
Right.
Whereas Spacestation, they want to hold on. 22, 23, I'd say, for them.
Yes.
And they can start to get some of their items, the core items online that will really allow them to start swinging. andinster, as you can see, he's got that Fatalis, the haste effect now available for him, and the Book of Tough stacking for Venenu. Just a couple of items for Spacestation game to feel comfortable in the mid-game area. eUnited definitely early to mid, Spacestation definitely mid to late.
And I'm right there with you, too, because andinster and BaRRaCCuDDa both on these gods that want to get a few items underneath their belt, and then they're going to be swinging with their auto attacks, but that's why eUnited kind of on the back burner have Benji on this Kuzenbo. We haven't had to see much of him this game. Once he starts rotating in, it's those two that they're playing to fall back on that he's best against. It's kind of scary.
Having a look at PandaCat's build here on the Anher as well. A bit surprised to see the Iqval coming out for him here as an Anher. Not because Iqval's bad by any stretch of the imagination, but Executioner is like bread and butter. They go so well together on an Anher because they combine with his passive to increase the damage overall.
That's a tier 1 tower, by the way.
3 on 2.
For eUnited, just kind of able to bully that one down. Scream takes an aggressive path, so he is going to meet up with Aquarius here in the jungle, but PolarBearMike's there in support, so he should be able to fall back. So far, eUnited's felt like they don't do everything they want. Now BaRRaCCuDDa taking a bunch of damage.
He's going to take even more for the Desert Fury!
That's it, solo!
Just jukes back into it. You can't predict which way it's going to go. You just got to hope for the best and go, is my luck good today on these auto attacks? Not to be, but that's the matchup. Anher versus Rama is definitely a matchup in favor of an Anher most of the time. Because when Rama goes to the sky, you can be waiting for him on landing with the pillar. The roll's awkward. Look at Panda. He's happy to keep fighting.
Yeah, andinster comes in, but that was really slow and telegraphed. A nice job getting the impale to push him into the wall. Forces out the beads. JeffHindla, though, lying in the wings, paralyzing spit, will not land. Ghastly breath is there, but PandaCat keeps on fighting as PolarBearMike lands the root.
Yeah, just off the mark with that, but the heal on top of PandaCat give him a bit of a mobility boost. Could be the second tower of the game, this, with BaRRaCCuDDa falling there to PandaCat, and also andinster being forced back to base.
Scream lurking in the jungle. I think they might want to try and force this one down, or at the very least try and find a pick here with Najan nearby. But they give up on it for now. Meanwhile, Baskin under siege.
Aquarius going to go for the all-in dive. The Jukes, the Aegis comes through the heal too.
That's going to keep him alive for now, but Aquarius has that clone helping him, that decoy, so he can keep up the chase. Baskin had nowhere to go. Aquarius forcing the issue and finds a nice kill for Spacestation.
Yeah, Aquarius just letting him know that, you know, even though Baskin got all the credit when he was once upon a time on Spacestation Gaming, the man mounted from the solo lane was the one that was really doing the donkey work.
Well, Aquarius needs to do all the work here and find a way out, as Scream and Benji are going to meet him in the jungle. So he has the Nene chasing him down, run as fast as he can, but those little legs are not fast enough. Aquarius should be able to make it out of there, no problem. But Graham, I want to ask you a little bit more about that solo kill we saw from PandaCat. I believe BaRRaCCuDDa had the Aegis available and either thought he was dead to rights or that it wouldn't be enough damage.
Not sure the Aegis was actually up at the time. I do know
the
beads.
Not 100%.
He used the beads in the roll, but at the same time he was like, well, I should be able to get away from this. The roll was good because it got him away from the pillar in time. Just the Desert Fury just did way more damage than bargained for.
PolarBearMike goes up into the ultimate to try and stay alive, but Stygian Torment is going to pull him right back. Even with the BaRRaCCuDDa here, it's not enough damage. PolarBearMike, in fact, is looking for the turnaround, can't find the heal, so he and Scream can't keep up the chase.
Baron Samedi in the support role is not about damage, he's just about survivability and control in the engagement. It's so hard to bring him down because he gets actual extra protections when he's using that ultimate as well. So buying himself some time, keeping them busy, and at the end of the day, that was an actual BaRRaCCuDDa that was up against him, and he didn't do anything.
PolarBearMike essentially just walks out. Now, he did use both his Relic, Shell, and Sprint have all been expended in order to keep himself alive. But take a look. He also has that Shield of Regrowth. He already kind of has one, it feels like, right? His 2 just does that. When you heal, you're also moving a little bit faster. Now Shield of Regrowth does the same thing, but from an item perspective, you're not catching it.
Health, HP 5, MP 5, 3 things that are definitely going to be useful for a support. And then 10% cooldown, job's a good one. And how about you just move a little bit quicker again, even though you move quicker with the same ability anyway. Go fast or go home.
Pillar not an optimal spot there, does get taken down, but Spacestation Gaming not going to make it here in time. eUnited slowly whittling away at Spacestation Gaming, and so far looking very, very strong. 2-1 does not tell the story here.
Yeah, exactly, because the story is that, hang on a second, BaRRa's getting aggressive again.
Up into the air, he's going to be taken. Trying to find a way to land those shots, but he's going to land right back down into a whole heap of trouble. Aquarius gets pinned up against the wall. Windfire Wheel is going to remove BaRRaCCuDDa from the fight very, very quickly, and now Aquarius is looking for an escape path.
That was a 4-on-3. Where was everybody else? Benenu was getting chased out by Benji, a giant turtle in the middle lane, and Andy couldn't get there. Hadn't his ultimate just come back up, I guess, but he was looking to strip the jungle, which was already down. And now it's the turtle's trying to steal the camp.
Trying to take it all by himself. Is going to drop down the ultimate. Looking for Venenu. Ends up dropping the apple on him. Forces out the Aegis. Benji gets the kill, I believe, with the reflect damage, and is able to get right back out of there.
Actually, the Nene that really helped out. But while this is going on, Andy's trying to get a tier 1 and farm up. eUnited get a tier 2 in the left-hand lane after the tier 1 and the Gold Fury and BaRRaCCuDDa's life. This is where the game is really falling apart on objectives now, because eUnited's like, we're early game, we can't get the kills because they're trying to play safe, then get the objectives instead and get the snowball going.
They've been able to take 2 Gold Furies without really any contest to this point. They kind of just bullied down the tier 1 tower in mid earlier on. Now the tier 2 has been taken in duo as well. eUnited have opened this up to about an 8,000 gold lead in their favor, and it's not like they're doing it off the back of a bunch of big team fight wins. There's only 5 kills total in this game. They're just controlling the map better, whether it's warding or lane pressure. They have control of the map.
And this game, honestly, when you look back through this at the end of it, if this continues in the same direction and eUnited take game 1, Spacestation Gaming going to go back to the drawing board and go, listen, this is the issue we've got. We drafted a little bit too late, in all honesty. We saw the composition they were putting together of a little bit early, pretty good in the early stages, mid is like the key point, but we went mid to late, and we've got nothing to help control the early. Bakker's not really going to do that as much as you want him to. Neither's Discordia. You need some support.
Pyromancer's going to go to eUnited as well here, Graham. Spacestation Gaming yet to secure an objective. A Scream had not been on the mark with these sashes so far. He's been looking for some nice ones, but they've, he hadn't needed them.
He hasn't needed them, to be fair. He's just kind of like, they're still winning the game anyway, so I guess it's not doom and gloom, but Pyromancer goes down now. This is a lot of pressure for a tier 2 again. 5-on-5, double hunter. This is what you're looking to do, especially with a Kuz who can tank for half a year.
They have everyone here, though, to try and make this defense. Nice Spirit Arrow is going to land from the mid lane. Neath Aquarius ends up getting sashed, but he's tanky enough to survive. PolarBearMike is going to be the life of the party. Pulls in JeffHindla, and he gets removed by PandaCat.
Aquarius goes to the backline, has to ult defensively, but over the wall comes Andy.
That's perfect timing with the blink on the backside, but he gets controlled as well. Scream is going to get the credit and survive with the Aegis. Windfire Wheels is going to remove one more target. Aquarius falls down and goes down. BaRRaCCuDDa going to be the next one. Aegis keeps him alive for a second, but Scream with another kill. 4 members down. Venenu, the only one standing, and the tier 2 going to come down as well.
So on a base level coming into this game, as we're going to watch Venenu get killed here more than likely.
Just barely.
The root OP. This is back to the drawing board for Space, and already this is almost out of their control, because I'm actually looking at defensive options against this siege that's about to come through after this fire giant goes down, Finch. And I'm looking at the comp going, okay, so who's going to jump in to try and disengage this? It's not a great situation for them to be in all honesty. Rough game.
And if Bakasura can blink into the backline, regurgitate onto 4 members, and have that kind of unexpected positioning, and you still are not able to win that fight, you're in a really tough spot. And Graham, this isn't one of those games where you can look back and go, man, if we hadn't just lost that fight at so-and-so, this has been eUnited slowly putting their will on Spacestation the whole game.
The 2 best teams in North America, proven by the fact they both came to land 2 times in a row this year, spring and summer. But when it comes down to it, this is the sort of games, because the skill level is so close, that picks and bans come into play. And, well, that's where this game feels to me, where it's really fallen apart.
And eUnited, they didn't pick Baron with that first selection, I believe. They were able to come back to that with their second pick. Spacestation Gaming kind of passed over on it. They felt confident up against this pick. And I'm not saying Baron's been the end-all, be-all, but he certainly helped out with that first kill that they got in middle lane with PBM's rotation. The life of the party has been a little bit too strong for them in some of these fights.
I'm going to say a lot of the pros haven't experimented enough with Baron Samedi to understand what he's bringing in the support role too, because Def's Vivid Gaze, his first ability, it's a power reduction and an attack speed reduction if it hits you. You know that?
It's a lot that Baron does.
And when you look at a Bakasura jungle, what does Baka want to do? Attack quick and kill people. But if you're not doing it as much with power and you're not going to go as fast because you get an attack speed reduction, it's not going to do as much as you hope it does.
Lotus Crown added over to PolarBearMike as well to add some protections whenever he gets those heals. Nice strike. Is going to bring PandaCat down below half health, but Scream already getting good damage onto the Phoenix on the left-hand side. Baskin's going to drop down the ultimate so Scream can try and trade this out easier, but they force andinster to drop the Regurgitate.
And Andy used that really for minions more than anything else. Wasn't really worried too much because Scream had already missed the sash. His beats were on cooldown, granted, so was a little bit worried about the Windflyer wheels. But I love this split. Send Scream solo in a 1v1 with a 3-level lead over andinster and let the rest of the team just keep poking away at mid.
Benji goes in aggressively with the reflect. JeffHindla taking quite a bit of poke, and Watery Grave is quite disruptive. JeffHindla is going to be the first casualty of war. Venenu going to join his teammate very shortly. Aquarius is going to make it up onto the cloud, but the mid-Phoenix has already been lost. Andinster at least finds a trade, though, on the Baskin.
PolarBearMike's going to chase him out. Aquarius on the left-hand side doesn't have his ultimate available. Oxform down. In comes PandaCat. Scream's there, too. And might as well pick up the Phoenix while you're at it, boys.
That's one more kill, one more structure. And a pretty tough game here for Spacestation Gaming if they want to try and find a way to make this defense. andinster and BaRRaCCuDDa, the only ones still standing. eUnited posturing as though they want to put an end to this game right here, right now, Graham.
They might be able to, actually, as well, especially with Benji tanking for half a year at the moment. Andy, though, maybe able to make a play.
He's on the backside trying to come in, but one more time, he can't get on the back. He's not tanky enough. He's been blown up entirely too quickly and ends up falling. PandaCat freely casting in the back, putting in autos, but now they're getting forced out by JeffHindla. Nice big heal coming in from the Baron Samedi, and the re-engage is on.
Baron with the Fire Giant buff alongside the sustain that they've got on this team. It's too much. It's too much for Spacestation to handle. They let the game get ahead of them, not in terms of losing kills, which is 12-2, but more, Finch, to do with objectives.
So far, the last objective, this Titan, has been a bit slow here. They're having to whittle it down. Spacestation Gaming doing everything they can to defend. andinster comes out one more time with their Regurgitate and does buy him team some space, but Aquarius gets pulled back in by the coffin PandaCat. Now 6-0-4 on her Titan down at a quarter HP. PandaCat getting in, plenty of autos, gonna jump in aggressively. Scream finds BaRRaCCuDDa. That should be game one, going over to eUnited.
And then it's back to the drawing board now then for Spacestation Gaming because, yeah, if you're just tuning in, that was the first look you saw of this performance between the two, you'd say eUnited won the victory of who won the trade.
Right.
But I think a lot of that comes down to picks and bans. I think a lot can be adjusted. It's still game one. Hopefully game two goes a hell of a lot better.
And Grim, this is an important set. I 100% think that, but I think that of the two matchups they're going to have, it's obviously the second most important, right? They're going to play again later on.
Yeah.
So maybe eUnited might be looking a little bit better here, but who's going to look better throughout the split overall? Who's going to be looking better when they make it to that LAN and qualify for HRX? That's going to be a big question, too.
And that's the real question of how much can they both learn and adapt throughout the season. Are they still the best two teams in North America? Because it might not be. These roster changes can take time to develop.
That's true.
Rafa did it in Europe. Look at where they are now.
At least so far, they're looking pretty good. But who's your MVP from Game 1? Go ahead and let us know now in the Mixer polls. It's tough. It felt like United played really well as a team. I think I could definitely find myself voting for PandaCat, at least towards those last 10 minutes or so. He was all over the place.
Panda did a really good job in the laning phase, like looking to bully. He did have a positive matchup, though, so could go with Panda. Baron made a big impact, though. The amount of sustain he was bringing to the team, survivability. But then again, you know, the whole team was pretty solid.
Everyone was able to play very well there in that Game 1. But again, it's just Game 1. It's a best of 3. Spacestation absolutely still have a chance to come back and win this set. We'll find out a little bit later. Let's go ahead and get the thoughts from the desk here first.
Thanks, Andrew. That was me receiving your little hand motion. Look, eUnited just looked dominant. The first 18 minutes of this game, not particularly quick. If you would have said at 18 minutes that this game was going to be over in 4 or 5, yeah, I would have been like, what happens? You know, what sort of catastrophic? Did someone DC? Like, what goes on? But really, eUnited just dismantle Spacestation.
I don't think Spacestation were prepared for the draft that eUnited threw at them between Baron support, Neath middle, Kuzenbo soul lane. It just worked out on all cylinders. And speaking of working out on all fronts. PandaCat finding the solo kill onto BaRRaCCuDDa,
Huge.
I think is like a morale victory for eUnited to just kind of start swinging things in their favor. And right before that, they snuck an early Gold Fury, no preparation.
It was that was definitely the moment where eUnited was, we were up 1 kill, we have 1 Gold Fury, but we're still kind of close. And then PandaCat takes no damage by killing BaRRaCCuDDa, who tries to get on the run and just couldn't keep up with PandaCat on her, man. That ultimate does so much damage now that Barra only took, 4 or 5 spears, but those 4 or 5 spears did 400 or 500 damage.
Well, when you apply the passive, just reducing the physical protections as well from that Enfeeble passive, it makes it that much easier to kill a squishy Rama player. And that's why any side lane you are, if you're done clearing the wave, just hide in the jungle and look for a play. As long as you have the vision, that could open the door for you.
Well, 6-0-5 for PandaCat. Not enough to earn him MVP. Instead, it's Benji, who had 1 kill. And this is it against Venenu, killing his former teammate. Benji was having a little bit of fun with this one. The Thorns and Nene combo gets the job done against
that was cute. I mean, there's no justice in the world. PandaCat is playing his heart out. Solos BaRRaCCuDDa. And it's going to be obviously the Kusube with MVP.
That's the thing. You actually lose votes by soloing BaRRaCCuDDa. Like, people just get upset and then they don't want to vote for you.
Okay.
So maybe next time Panda solo Jeff. No, you'll lose votes there too. I don't know what you're supposed to do.